Hey guys, welcome back to Fix It Friday. So this week we're going to be working on a new mod that's available for the original Game Boy, otherwise known as the DMG. So there's tons of mods that are out there nowadays for the original Game Boy, but this one's pretty fun and unique and also relatively easy to put together. So it's called the GBHD and it's made by a company called Gamebox Systems, and it actually comes in a little package like this. And so what it does is it takes the native video and audio coming from the DMG, and then it converts it to a standard HDMI video signal using this FPGA chip right here. So it's basically a way to consolize your Game Boy so that you can easily play it on a modern display. And as you can see here by this little daughter board PCB, it also allows you to easily connect your Game Boy to standard Super Nintendo style controllers and play. So yes, I know there's tons of ways of playing the original Game Boy on your TV, including things like the Super Game Boy available for the Super Nintendo. But this is a nice straight up HDMI connection to a modern display, and it also lets you do other things like it retains the original network connectivity, and it has the correct timing, which the original Super Game Boy does not. So yeah, so today I'm going to go through how to do this modification, and it's a great one for beginners, and I'll go through it step by step and we can take a look at what it does. Alright, let's get started. Okay, so I've gone ahead and taken apart the Game Boy and just removed the motherboard portion of it. And so I'm not going to go into the teardown of a Game Boy because it's also quite straightforward. It's something I've done on several videos in the past, and you basically just need a screwdriver and maybe a tri-wing screwdriver to take the thing apart. So I deliberately chose a Game Boy here that had a broken screen, and so it's not a screen that could necessarily be fixed. And this mod is a great candidate for Game Boys like that, or Game Boys that have really beat up shells. Basically, the only thing that you need is a working motherboard. The rest of it, if it's in bad shape, it really makes no difference. So the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be just removing a few extra components that are on this board that we don't need. So we no longer need the headphone jack. This is going to go. We're going to remove this power PCB as well. And we're also going to get rid of these battery terminals because they're also no longer needed. Aside from that, we're going to make a few little trimming modifications to the PCB. So you can see that there's some components of PCB, like these little ridged portions here of the PCB. This is where it actually was stuck to another Game Boy in the factory before they snapped them off from each other and then started populating the board. So these little bumps, they're going to get in the way when we install this into the case. So I'm going to go ahead and file these down and clip them so that they're nice and flush like the rest of the PCB. All right, so let's start first by removing these two little boards and the battery terminals. Okay, so you can see I just removed this just by heating up all four of these solder points and just putting a little pressure on the cable, and then this piece just comes right off. Okay, now I'm going to save these because they work, and so if I get a Game Boy with, you know, a broken power PCB, or very commonly one with a bad headphone jack, these are great. I can use these to repair other Game Boys in the future. Now to remove these battery terminals, you just need to apply some heat and some solder over here. And at the same time, oh, that one just fell right out. I was going to pull it out with a pair of pliers, but it looks like it's not even necessary. Let's see. Yeah, those just fell right out. They might not fall out in your case, though. If that's the case, you can just use a pair of pliers and just kind of pull at the same time you're heating, and you can get those parts out. Okay, so now that those daughter boards are out of the way, we're going to just come in here with the flush cutter. Just try to trim away some of this extra PCB. There's not very much, really. And then I have a file. And just to smooth it out. there's two on the side here as well. I might as well clip those. Okay, so that's all set. Now there's just one other thing I need to do to process this PCB, and that has to do with the little link port over here. So you can see it has these two little metal pieces that kind of come outward from the port, and just to make it snug and tight, I'm just going to use this flush cutter. There we go. So I just snapped off this little extra piece of metal over here. I'm going to do the same on this side, and then this just helps it give it a tight fit when we fit it into the case. Okay, so there we go. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is solder a couple of wires onto the board. It's only 3, so again, this is very simple, especially if you're new to soldering and to doing these kinds of projects. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and solder a wire onto the PCB right over here, and this is where the power board used to be. So basically we're going to just link up the outer 2 pads on the power PCB with just a little piece of wire connecting them. Okay, so that's all set. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a bridge between these 2 points over here, and this is where the headphone jack PCB used to be. So to bridge these, it's far easier just to take a little piece of wire like I've done here and just pre-tin these 2 pads and then solder the wire across both pads, like so. And just snip off the excess, and there we go. Those 2 are bridged together. Okay, so this last wire that we're going to be soldering goes to the volume wheel, so it goes specifically to pin 4 over here. It's a bit long, I think it's about 10 or so inches in length, and it's going to just go, yeah, right here. This is optional. This is for getting stereo sound, but personally I think it's, you know, pretty much a must-have. And it's easy. It's really just adding this 1 wire right here. Okay, so that's all set. Okay, so to finish up this optional expansion audio, what we're going to do is just remove a surface mount resistor on the PCB right here. So it's R3, and you can just add a little solder to both sides and remove it just like how I did here. And now we're going to take the other end of that wire that I had just soldered on. Oops. And we're just going to attach it right here where it says write audio. Alright, so now we're ready to start assembling this thing. So I started by just taking 2 small screws that are included with the kit and screwing them into position here. This holds this back plate into position. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this power switch and just slide it over here. Okay. And just making sure that your actual physical switch is all the way off to the side here. Now I'm going to go ahead and assemble these pieces together. Okay, it's a very snug fit, but we're good. Okay, so there's 2 medium-sized screws. They're the only ones in the installation kit. They're going to go here to lock the cartridge slot into place. So now let's move on to the other half of the shell. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is just insert this board into the other half of the case. We're also going to install the SNES controller. And to do that, you just have to start by lifting up this little locking mechanism here on this flex cable. And then you attach the flex cable with the blue side facing you, like so. And now we're going to go ahead and place this in and start by just getting the ports lined up. And there we go. That was actually quite easy. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and attach that Super Nintendo controller port. And just like before, we place the ribbon cable like this with the blue side facing up and lock it down. And then it's just going to go right in over here. It looks like it's a really tight fit, so I'm going to mess with it a bit off camera to make sure that it fits into this port. Oh, actually, no, there we go. Never mind. It's not that bad. So you just kind of like hook it under because there's like a little outer piece of plastic on the controller port. So you just got to kind of push that through. And then once it's there, the 3 posts for screwing it into place are all lined up. So I'm going to go ahead and screw these 3 posts into position, and then we're going to continue from there. All right, so now we got to take this flex cable that connects the 2 PCBs together, and we've got to do a little bit of creative folding here in order to make this all fit cleanly and neatly. So first step you've got to do is just kind of crease it like this, so that you take the blue side and you face it downward like so. Then you're going to fold it in on itself like this. And we're going to start like this so that you have both of the connections facing up like this. Okay, so this last step is confusing, so you might just have to, watch this a few times. I certainly had to in order to figure this part out. So the last thing you've got to do is you've got to take this portion of the cable and now you flip it over and you bend it like this. And just take your time. You don't have to crease this very much. In fact, you really don't want to crease it really hard because you'll damage the cable. But basically, the end result is you want it to look like this, so that you've got one side with the contacts facing up towards you, the other side with the blue facing you, so that it has this kind of bend like that. All right, so now let's go ahead and install that into the console. All right, so let's go ahead now and take this ribbon cable and install it. So you're going to take the blue contacts, and the blue side is going to face the Super Nintendo controller here on this PCB. And over here on this one, we're going to take the blue side and it's going to face up as it goes into here. Doesn't matter which side is which, but I think I'm just going to do it this way because it's a little easier to use this side on the Game Boy. There we go. Okay, so that's all set. So we're just about there. Okay, so you can see I've taken these long screws and I've threaded them through the case right here, and they are going to hold this little spacer in place. Just like that. And yeah, we're done. So I'm going to go ahead and finish closing up the case, and then let's go ahead and plug this thing into a TV and see what it does. All right, so I've gone ahead and plugged in the GBHD, and I did that with a micro USB that comes with the kit, and I just have a standard 5-volt power supply like from a cell phone charger or whatever, and that's doing the trick. And so before you even turn the system on, you get this nice little Gamebox logo, which looks great. So when we power on the console, I mean, it just looks phenomenal. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the features of this thing. So if you hold the start and select button down for a few seconds, you get a little menu that pops up here in the corner, and so you can change your resolution to either 480p, which I think has better compatibility, or 720p. Personally, I think 720p looks really good, so that's what I'm going to keep it at. You can do things like change the scaling. So I believe that this is a 5x integer scale, and that's personally how I would like it. You can also remove or add overscan. So this is with overscan off, and I believe this is with overscan on. You also have some choices with scan lines. Personally, this is not my kind of thing. I generally don't like these options with scan lines, but you know, they do look good and they're available for people who like them. You can change your background border color. just by toggling through by hitting left and right on the D-pad. Personally, I just like it standard black, but that's just me. You also have this option here for this other product that they sell called the Lit Kit, which I haven't really looked into and I don't have installed, so I can't really talk about it that much. One thing that's really awesome is that you can actually remap the buttons, so you can either have A and B be A and B on the Super Nintendo controller, or you can map it to Y and B instead. You also can change palettes, so they have, I think, up to 16 different palettes on here. Personally, I think this looks really good, and the first palette that I had on also has the same kind of look as the original Game Boy. And then if I hit this power, it'll put it into a low power state, and I can just wake it up really quick by pressing A again. So yeah, that's it overall. I mean, this is a really phenomenal kit. It looks fantastic on your screen. It's super easy to set up. You just plug it in, and it's also a really good beginner's project because there's very little soldering involved, and it's quite straightforward. So, alright guys, let me know what you guys think about this mod in the comments below. I really recommend it. They also have one for the Game Boy Color, which I'm hoping to get my hands on in the future, and I'll do an installation video on that as well. So yeah, that's it for this video, and thanks again for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!